Okay, guys, welcome to this week's Fife Property Show. So this week we're going to be talking about 2022 design trends. This is our guide to what's in store for home decor over the next year. This is the knowing exactly how you should be styling your house in order to get the best price and take advantage of the marketplace in 2022. So on today's show, we have Perrie McIntosh, estate agent. Hi, Perrie, how are you?
Yes, I'm great. Thanks. Yourself, Jim?
Absolutely fantastic. And
Fabulous.
we have Richard Cook.
Hi, guys.
So we
Hi,
have
Richard.
a good broad mix here. We have yourself, Richard, in lettings. We have Perrie's in the estate agency, and I'm an estate agency and investor. So we've got a good broad mix to talk about design trends and where we see that going and possibly how that could be capitalised on both properties for rent and properties for sale as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say it does tie in quite a lot with. I mean, we do a lot of obviously refurbs and renovations and things, and obviously trends and colour schemes and things all tie in with that as well. But also, I think people getting their property ready for the market and making it appeal to maybe the right audience for sale as well. It all kind of falls into the kind of colour schemes and how you set the property out for the listing. So yeah, quite a good topic.
And I've been told to stay away from Magnolia.
Oh no, I couldn't believe it when you picked Magnolia and I wanted to paint the office slate grey and you said no. and I've gone kind of
Magnolia.
I do. Well, it is warm. I'll give you that. It does go with the woodwork. But anyway,
that's the whole point. Do you think the Magnolia thing is just a cliche that people like to cast up all the time? And it's like almost like, oh, you're no trendy if you think Magnolia is good. Is that?
Yeah,
do you think it's a cliquey social thing?
Oh, I don't know if it's a cliquey social thing, but it's just
trend.
vanilla. It's just vanilla, isn't it? It doesn't give us anything more than that.
Right. All I can say is get it up, yeah. Come on, Magnolia.
I think you get away with Magnolia in the office and things, and it is a bit of a warmer feel and things. But
well, Jim, you wouldn't like my new wallpaper then.
That's a bit of a statement one, yeah.
It is a statement one. I've totally done that, and so I'm perfect for this show today because I downsized and I had got a house ready for selling. Had then gone into rental where you have to live with whatever's there, and then come into my own one. And because we've downsized, actually, I don't think there's a single piece of furniture downstairs or decor that has been like anything I've had before. And I've kind of gone with the statement thing, and I think I've got that from quite a few of our sellers. There was a really beautiful home in East Green that I loved, and you'll remember that one, Jim. And what I loved about that one was the bathroom, and that's where the idea of this wallpaper came from. Right. Remember you walked in the bathroom and the walls were Magnolia, but you had this massive palms all over, and I just thought, I have to have that. I just love that, and it just was vibrant and different.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's actually quite good. I mean, having a feature wall is the thing, you know, and having it actually a patterned wall and something like what you've got now, and the rest of them plain is a statement, and that's kind of one of the trends it was for this year anyway.
Yeah, I think that is quite a trend. It's like to have a kind of simple but bold colours, and then a statement wallpaper wall, like feature wall, and statement pieces as well in terms of furniture and things. I think that's kind of the trend.
Again, we'd be interested to hear what anybody watching, what you think is the best trend in terms of colours or paper, or is it patterns? Is it or kitchens and stuff like that? So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that as well. I mean, the now is really the middle of November, and your thoughts are probably turning to putting your feet up for Christmas. From a classic example, everybody kind of switches off. I always say most people switch off when they get to mid-December, and like they've all put their party hats on, and it's open season for the Friday night, Black Friday.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I always think Black Friday when people come out and they eat your young. You've never seen these people in years. It's like they come out the ether and up for the manholes, and it's like one of these things from Escape from New York with Snake Plissken.
We're past Halloween, Jim. Stop scaring the kids. Come on.
But when you think about it, I mean, the New Year's only 6 weeks off. So it's natural and exciting to look forward to new beginnings. So what better time to start thinking about your decor for 2022? I mean, to help make you start and to ensure that your homes of Fife look and feel the part, we've been scouring, the media and the latest trends, the comments, the home decoration experts, and all putting that together. And it's clear that 2022 watchword is evolution rather than revolution. Wow. Evolution rather than revolution. Okay. So many of us sunk our energies into improving our homes during lockdown and beyond. So instead of drastic changes, lockdown and beyond, it's like folk are building new houses in their gardens.
I've seen some crazy things going on since lockdown.
It's like, I've got a bar and a restaurant in my garden, and it's like, what?
We have a neighbour just a few doors up who's had quite a lot of interesting wood and things designed, so I'm quite excited to see what they're going to come up with. Yeah. That'll get the competition going.
We've all put our energies into this in lockdown and beyond. Maybe no me.
Magnolia doesn't qualify.
So instead of drastic changes, it really focused on the subtlety of merging vintage, natural, and Zen elements with a deft updating of the timeless classics. This is good news for everyone. My flares are coming back into fashion. So whatever your taste for 2022 has the trend to fit, definitely. So whether you're getting ready to sell, planning a decor for the next home, or simply looking for a new look, this is but we're going to give some top tips on here, key design elements to be updated and thoroughly on trend for 2022. So first one, you said it, Perrie, you just showed it, return to nature.
Yeah, I did. And this is not where it ends, by the way. I'm not taking you through the rest of my home. I think it is a return to nature, and I think that because we've all spent time in our homes and we're enjoying the comfort of that, but we want it to be slightly different, and we want it to be a bit more decluttered, I want to say, but having kind of a bit of a mix and colour and everything in there. And Jim, you and I were talking offline there recently as well, so even like the nature thing, and as a child I remember growing up and we used to have coal fires and used to have the coal house at the back of the kitchen and used to come through and light the fire and things like that. And interestingly enough, I was actually at a property today with somebody and talking about the exact same topic. But for me, I loved that. And I think as I've gotten older, I've missed that. So recently I've just had a log burner fitted, and the whole thing of the sparking and the flames, and it's become the new television. So the TV gets switched off and we're actually just, we've hunted out the vinyl. So we've got the vinyl off and you're watching the fire and the crackling, and it's just, there's something quite zen about it, and it just makes you feel warm inside. And yeah, it's quite nice, isn't it? It's all those things that tick all the senses. We always talk about the sensory thing, don't we?
The fire thing for me goes back to the days of being at my grandfather's house. Because they had a coal fire, and they just, I used to help them go and get logs. I think he just got free labour out of me. I think that was really what it was all about. He used to haul me up to the woods when they were clearing all the trees for building new houses, and he's go, are you doing anything with that? And it's like, not right, Jim, go and take that. I'm only 6 years old, by the way, and I'm hauling tree trunks down with my brother, who's 8 years old, and we're hauling them down to the house. And then he gives us this the big band saws.
Yeah,
massive teeth on them. He goes, there you go, guys. Go and cut these logs up. And it's like, what? Nowadays, people would be affronted if you gave a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old something like that. But just fill your boots, get on with it. Yeah. We used to have the rack where it had the V, the V rack where you just sit the log in the V and then you just go back and forward. He'd have one side and I've had the other, and we'd just go at it. But essentially, that's what it was all about. And that, for me, that's what resonates for me when I see a coal fire or a log fire. And
I just love it. It's the smell and the actual making of it I really enjoy as well. And as a child, we used to kind of toast the bread on it and things like that. And one of my lifelong friends, we were recently speaking about it, and she says one of her warmest memories is when we used to live next door to one another. She's one of my warmest memories as a child was when her dad used to lift her over the fence, and she'd come into ours because they didn't have a coal fire. And my mum would get the old kind of going out with a date bread because it wasn't good for a sandwich, and you would just stick it on the end of the poker and literally hold it at the fire and cook and make your own toast. And it was, to me, it was exciting and different, but I was always a little bit, oh God, what's my pals going to think of this? But actually, it's one of their greatest memories now. So I think it is a whole sense and memory thing, and people are, for all the reasons we've spoken about before, really want to, it's all about their homes now, isn't it? And what it is rather than what they have, I think.
Marshmallows is for me. Toasting marshmallows on an open coal fire.
Yeah.
An open fire, I think, it gives everybody that kind of sense of nostalgia. And like, obviously, I remember it was my great granny's, but obviously, we used to sit and fold the hand fold kindling out of the newspaper. And so when you walk into a house and the fire's on, everybody's going to have their own kind of perspective on how it makes them feel and kind of maybe transports them to a certain place. So it's definitely that feel factor. Yeah.
Chestnuts on the shovel as well.
Yeah.
You used to have the shovel and you put the chestnuts on top of them.
But like you were saying though about the saw, I mean, I used to have like the big log and then make the kindling from another log, and used to put the log on top of the log, and you're standing there at 7 with an axe.
No safety, no health and safety.
I mean, you just wouldn't do that now, would you?
And then the head falls off and hits you on the foot or something like that.
I bet it used to fall off all the time because it was always sugary on the end of the stick. Or handle, I'm sure it's called.
Just bang it down on the top and it'll get the lid, it'll fit back onto it. It was like, all right, okay.
But then you used to get the axe stuck in the wood, and then your dad would just go and get the big hammer, and you would be banging the hammer onto the axe. Oh my God.
Never mind, we're burning the planet down. We'll go out in style.
I know, exactly. But anyway, that kind of goes with it. But I think coming into Christmas as well, just my last point on the fire thing, and you'll be up for that, Richard, the old Bailey's o'clock when it's getting in December and you're roaring fires on. That's always quite a nice feeling as well, isn't it? Anyway, sorry.
Return to nature. This is
I was having a wee trip
what
there.
you're going to talk about.
So well, it's a return to nature, isn't it?
So, if you're struggling to be too neat and you're not overly keen on clutter, you'll be glad that the hardline, minimal, and maximum style are both set for a softer tone. I mean, for 2022, instead of trying too hard, okay, there's a move towards a gentler, easier, and relaxed authenticity with fresh and breezy colour palette of natural colours to reflect optimistic return to normality. That's really what it comes down to. Rustic Vogue broke through this year with its stylish update of cottagecore and modern farmhouse for a universal audience. And then also it was neither too country nor too urban, and the look emerged from people moving out of town, really. You know, that's where it come from. I mean, the look really came from people moving out of town because they really wanted that feel of being in the country. So that's where all that rustic vogue came from. But with a spark of city style brought along for the ride, because it was something they'd taken with them. The nostalgia thing, really. Bringing in Zen are curves, organic shapes, and floating surfaces, focus on longer sight lines and seeing more on the floor as well. I mean, think shelves instead of bookcases, with invisible fixings, tables and chairs with stem-like legs, wall-mounted sideboards, and elevated plant pots in slender stands. That's the thing that we're coming back to all again. Is that maybe an IKEA thing? Or do you think IKEA is just a wee bit ahead of us and they know what's coming?
Yeah, I don't know if it's an IKEA thing, because that can go too modern and too simplistic, can't it?
Yeah.
I saw a beautiful thing the other day when you're talking about the shelves, and it was I watch a lot of these property programs. It was a declutter thing, and this couple just didn't want to part with anything, but they really had to because they totally outgrown their house and they didn't want to move because they loved where they lived in the schools and all that for the kids. So this troop came in and emptied it and then made them choose what they were going to take in, and then they put everything back in but redesigned how everything went. And what they actually did, and you see it in some old country pubs actually, where it was like it was high shelves that almost up like picture veils all the way around the lounge, and then all their trinkets and ornaments and their holiday pieces were all kind of on these shelves. And when you went in, the walls were plain and there was not so much on the floor, but you had all this colour dotted around on the high shelves. And it was absolutely stunning. It was really great the way that they did it. It was very modern, but also not too modern. It still had a rustic feel to it. So it kind of fits in with what you're saying there, Jim. And it was just stunning what they did and the ideas of it.
I mean, Richard, your styles are really good. I mean, you know, you've got a real flair for it.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of plants and things relating to nature and things that have popped up in my house, and random pineapples and things, but it does all go. And listening to you, it's true. It's like an evolution, but it's an evolution design picking up from things for the past as well. It's like some retro things, and it's like a mixture of things. So it'll be interesting to see. And I think a lot of those softer colours that you mentioned, Jim, a lot of design recently, apart from the greys and whites, has been like bold statement colours. And I think just the 2022 probably will soften them off a bit and have like a wee bit of more, like you say, softer colours, the country house feeling. I could see that coming into trend, definitely.
Well, everyone's discovering, rediscovering nature. Feeling blessed to get outdoors again. It's a little wonder that 2022 colours of the year reflect the natural world and the feeling of that fresh start overall. Really, that's what it comes down to. I mean, at Dulux, Bright Skies is an airy light blue chosen to capture the optimism and desire for the fresh start. Instead of feeling shut inside, and the colour reflects the ultimate sense of being outdoors itself. So this seems to be where Dulux is doing it. Over at Benjamin Moore, October Mist, 1945. I think why they put it in 1940. Was there a different mist in 1945? Is it today?
Maybe it's sage in the because of the
no,
sage.
1946, but 1945.
Well, maybe it's the sage thing, and they're taking us back to the avocado toilets and bathroom suites, maybe.
Well, funny enough, it is a gentle, soft sage green.
Sage green,
maybe Armitage Shanks has got an overspill of stock from years ago, and maybe they've said to Benjamin Moore, go to get this back in fashion again, so we can sell these obsolete pampas green bathrooms. And Whisper Grey, Twyford's Whisper Grey, and you'll not remember Twyford's, Richard. It's just a wee bit before your time, but that was the Pampas Green. Whisper Grey was often the most common ones in the 80s. I mean, the gentle and soft sage green is a colour that feels like being wrapped in nature, and it's equally at home in traditional and contemporary rooms as well. So Never Lonely Upspurred, 401 Ball has no less than 5 colour predictions for next year. Among them, you'll find the vibrance of the yellow mustards fields reflected in Babouche, while the warm and gentle Schoolhouse White goes anywhere with anything or even on its own itself. But, I mean, where would you use them?
It's funny because colour schemes are funny. Like, you talk about that light, airy blue, and like I say about country kitchens, that's where you would see a light. Well, I think you would see a light, airy blue, and then obviously like these sagey green colours and things. They are coming into like weird places, like your bathroom and things. It's weird, and even like kitchen units. You've seen the colours of kitchen units now, and all the different trends. You've got like deep blues and greens and things as well. So colour schemes interest me because they totally change the perspective and the view on a room when you walk in it.
I mean,
they do, and I think it makes it nice and warm.
And people's house is going to be like Caesar's Palace with the forum when you walk in, and it's got the big, the clouds and right along the top of it,
and it's like you're outside. But
oh my God, this looks like we're outside.
I know.
Yeah, it's that part's no for me. I think that's a step too far to nature. But I mean, like lounges for me as well, and I kind of have gone. It's interesting actually that we're talking about that because I've kind of gone down that route where I've got like a warm white on 3 of the walls, and then I've got kind of like a mustard, and then I've got a grey sofa, and then I've got a mustard kind of standalone chair and things like that. So it's all those colours that seem to be coming in, and it's really unusual for me. I mean, Jim, you saw my previous property, and everything was glass and white and chrome, and there was not knickknacks everywhere. It was quite a minimalistic house. And this is the complete opposite from that, and I've gone from that warm and accessorizing, and as you were saying, Richard, it's the plants and the little bits. And we were at a friend's a couple of weeks ago, and they had this little occasional table, and I've even got one of those stuck in a corner, and it gets pulled out when we want to use it and things like that. But it doesn't look cluttered, but it's like everything's got a place, and there's a place for everything, if you like.
So you're not sure where this is going because of that, then, if that's the case.
Well, no, I think for me, I am sure where it's going, and I think that people want to spend more time at home.
I was going to say, tell me about your childhood.
Yeah, do you know what, Perrie, you're right. People, I think you're right.
If you sit in my mustard sofa, you could maybe ask me. I've got a big stool, and we could just.
It's like, let's delve into that a bit of deep, that a bit more, and talk about this.
It's a complete cycle change. I don't know where it's come from.
Anyway, I mean, Well, listen. How about sunny yellow in a dining kitchen to set the tone for the vibrant centre of the home? A calming sage green for a smoothing bedroom, and comfy living space, and a refreshing welcome home from a pale blue hall. I mean, to be honest, it sounds grotesque written down.
But
Genuinely, but I tell you what, when you see that come together, you'll go, wow, I wish my house was like that.
Yeah, it does.
Do you think we just forget about what's happened in the past, and we then see all these colours again, and it's like I tell you what, and I know this is a weird analogy, but I used to eat Weetabix all the time, right? And I got to the point where I'd eaten so much Weetabix that I made myself sick of Weetabix. And then I tell you what, I've never ate them for the next 5 years. But when I went back to Weetabix, I thought, wow, what have I been missing?
Too much a good thing.
Do you think? Do you think that's what's happened? Do you think this is what happens with us? We do far too much of one thing, and everybody gets on board with it, and then we almost get desensitized to it, and we go, nah, it's not that great anymore. Magnolia. Oh, it's coming round again.
Well,
you've just
quite, Jim, but
you've just kind of triggered a childhood memory for me as well. My dad used to always say to me, never tell your mum you like something for your dinner because you'll get it every day for 6 months until you're sick of it.
Do you know what I picked up on there? What you said there, Perrie, about spending more time at home, and I think something that will stay on trend for a while is obviously the minimalist industrial kind of look, but for people's homes, maybe not necessarily for that, because people are spending or have spent so much more time at home, and I think they want to make it more homely, and that's obviously introducing colours and all these wee knickknacks and bits and pieces that make living at home more convenient and comfortable. So I think that's kind of where it's headed.
And soft whites as well, and they could really go anywhere, particularly in great in bathrooms when paired with natural tiles and all the accessories that you get in bathrooms. I mean, I still think that looks really nice. I think accessorizing is a really, really good thing. And actually, sometimes a bit minimalistic, but accessorize with everything else in order to bring that wow factor in. And we're going to talk about that in a wee minute. Stylish sustainability. Hot on the heels of COP26, the emphasis on stylish sustainability continues the trend for the recent years, I think. If you've ever moved home with a flat purchase doors or a wardrobe, you'll know how they're only truly happy when you leave them where they are, or they fall apart once you've built them.
Because they never come with all the screws they're meant to anyway.
Aye, and I tell you what, if anybody's got me the screws from my flat part, can you please return them? Because you probably have excess ones. I always say MFI, made for idiots. And to escape the cycle of buying again and again, the move forward is towards what might be called proper furniture. So what I mean by that, intentional purchases, the stand, the test of time, and bring continued enjoyment no matter how many times you up sticks, and go. Like for example, my leather sofa has been with me for 25 years.
I think one of the really biggest trends, I think, will be being eco-friendly and obviously conscious about the environment, and these flat pack disposable furniture, because they don't last long, and are a big factor in that. And I think if you're buying furniture that's going to stand the test of time and be with you for years and years, then that has been kind of eco-friendly and reducing your carbon footprint, and reducing your carbon footprint and is quite a big trend that everybody tries to follow at the minute, and I think that will continue hopefully it will continue for a long time.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's absolutely right, Richard, and certainly that's. I don't know if I did it consciously, but it seems to have turned that way. But we've done that because there's been some things that we've had to purchase new for the property because we helped out our son and he's got his own place, and so it was a bit of recycling went on there, so nothing went to waste, everything was recycled. But when we were buying what we were buying, I was taking it into account. So even like the hob, for instance, we've got an induction hob and we worked out the best one to get and how that was going to affect us. And some of those deciding factors did come into it. So it was about the longevity of the item we were buying as well. And that wasn't from a monetary thing. It was about that whole wastage point as well. And Jim and I were talking about off air, talking about that burner, and Jim was like, but you're still building logs. And I'm saying, but yeah, but they're building trees, and I'm not putting my gas central heating on, and I'm not doing this, and it's not a multi-burn fuel burner. And all of that starts to play a little bit in it. And I think it's because we have been at home and we've seen all the wastage, and we've seen actually news articles where people have gone without things as well. And I think that kind of resonates with you to make you think a little bit more consciously about the choices that you're making.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think that does come into it.
Oh, definitely.
So how might that look? Well, if you're in the market for a new sofa, think about the 1970s Danish couches, which with rich leather, upholstery and simple, clean lines. Or if you're buying a new picture, a picture with a classic Chesterfield, or redress an opulent velvet, and given streamlined modernity by removing the buttons. You know, you could do that as well. So there's different ways you can do that in terms of how you redesign stuff and recycle stuff. And what is it? Is it upcycle? Yeah, it's upcycle.
Yeah,
upcycling, yeah.
So upcycle. I mean, could this affect a relationship with the fast furniture in favour of the longer-lasting, timeless pieces? And will the likes of IKEA widen their focus to include durability as well as design? You know, that's another thought.
I think they'll need to if they want to survive in the way that the new life thought is around that. They're going to have to, aren't they, as a business? And I've got a friend who upcycles a great deal, and she goes to all these antique fairs and buys really old wooden furniture. And she had a piece the other day that she had done, and it was a three-legged, like, little kind of occasional table thing. And the before and after pictures, it was unbelievable, and it cost literally next to nothing to get this recycled. Right. But it was using eco-friendly paint and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But honestly, it was beautiful, and I think a lot of people are taking that position in it and making their shabby chic and their modern twist all come together from something actually that inherently was old. It doesn't have to be new off the shelf.
And that's the reason I never throw anything out, because I feel really guilty when I see everybody upcycling so well.
Upcycling is such a good thing.
It usually gets banished to the first port of call, which is the garage, and then possibly it just disappears from the garage, and the wee fairy just takes it away and puts it to the tip. That could be Elaine, maybe.
I was just going to say that'll be the wife, Jim.
and I don't get to know if it's gone. I usually just say to Elaine, look, you know, if it's been there for a long time, just what I don't know doesn't hurt me. But didn't, for God's sake, throw away my records, my vinyl, because that's out there. So accessories and textiles, if you're simply not up for decorating or major purchases in the process, a few chosen accessories can transform everything. We just spoke about that now, so let's go into this a bit deeper. From the corner of the room to the entire home, not to mention the health benefits of a day's retail therapy. I mean, the return of the velvet ads, the return of velvet ad, a sumptuous dash of tactile style from couches and curtains and cushions, and on headboards and throws. So we're getting back to the velvet for headboards and throws. I mean, that is 1970s and 1980s.
Yeah, there is a lot of
it's coming.
There is a lot of like maybe retro feel and modern trends as well, obviously incorporated in that. And I think pieces and things within property that's really got a good age, but in a modern setting. And that mixture kind of is quite a good trend, and it's something that will probably develop as we go into the next year.
Mm-hmm.
I think it will. I mean, we joked earlier about vinyl, but honestly, we have now got our vinyl out, and we had an old cabinet, and I liked the kind of style of the cabinet, but I didn't like legs on it, and it made it too high, and then when the lamp was on it, things didn't look right. So rather than just getting rid of the cabinet, all we did was buy 6 new legs that were shorter and put the 6 new legs on it. And actually, the table looks magnificent now, and it's exactly where I want it to be. So the lamp sits right on it, and the record player, as I would call it, sits right on it, and all the vinyls underneath, and it's a great centerpiece on one wall.
Can I just say, for the younger generation out there, the vinyl we're talking about is records. It's not the vinyl on the bathroom floor that you find. It's actually records. Yes, you put a record on a disc and you put a needle on top of it, and the sound goes through the needle and it comes out the speaker.
And it sounds amazing.
It is, and it's just that throwback to that and just that sound. So it's all come back full circle, and I wish I hadn't thrown out my Amstrad Music Centre now. Well, we're 20 days tape in. Maybe we'll come back to taping the radio and getting keep that.
That's what I did when I was younger. It was taping the radio with a cassette.
You used to get really frustrated when they used to speak over your favourite song.
He's ruined my song. I mean, you need to only visit people to visit the Habitat aisle in Sainsbury's to see what's in store for us. I mean, with the Argra collection giving a clear signal of what the trend is, and wherever velvet goes, glamour follows. Ultimately, elsewhere around the home, handmade and artisan wares are more popular than ever in this process, particularly with the styles like Essay giving rise to cottage industries around the globe. Timber trays and organisers, and clay pots and vases and leather footstools and woven bedspreads all play a part in their natural, organic style in the process. So, and if you want, and you've admired loft living from afar, but found it slightly too rugged or raw in the process, you're in luck. From John Lewis to B&Q, refined industrial lighting is very much in vogue, from polished metal fittings and brass and steel to vintage Edison bulbs, shedding your home in their softly golden glow. You talked about that, Richard. You know, that's the sort of feel. It's, is that what you've got?
I've got a mixture of thing. I've got every room you go into in my house is a wee bit different, but yeah, the lighting and then like to say about the industrial lighting and things is very in, and I've got a few different lamps and lighting fittings that do kind of give that obviously sense of trend, like the industrial side of things, but I mix it with other things as well. We'll call this show Changing Rooms.
What about you, Perrie? I mean, have you got something like that?
I have. I've got quite a few things. I've got some metals in that I've kept that have worked, but then I've maybe upcycled them, as you said, and I've put like different colours of shades on them. And actually, lampstands that were in my lounge are now in the kitchen, and where it was used to be in a hall, it's now in a bedroom, and everything's kind of looking slightly different. And I think that it makes a house more warm and welcoming. And you don't need to get rid of what you have; you can just change it slightly. And interestingly, one of the shops that you mentioned there, are online stores, is Etsy. I don't know, Richard, if you've tried Etsy, but their stuff is amazing, and you get really unusual things from them, and actually quite. This is not an eco show, but it can be eco-friendly as well, which I think is a good thing. And more natural fibres.
Suppliers and things that are on it.
It is, and I think it gives you such a volume to look at. But what I've also found is I'm actually doing quite a lot of shopping. I'm kind of going off piste a little bit here, but I bought a winter scarf the other day, and it's made out of plastic, but it feels like material, but it's recycled plastic that it's made from. And I bought that from a local shop here. I didn't get it online or anything like that. I actually went into a retailer here and bought that, and it's beautiful, and it's been made from recycled plastic.
Is that not a bit like nylon though? When you think about it, it's like that's polyester. Nylon's kind of made like that in a similar sort of vein. So maybe that's the sort of feel it is.
No, it doesn't. Honestly, it feels like a lovely soft cotton.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't know how they've done it.
That's weird. I wouldn't expect it to be like that.
No, don't know how they've done it.
Quite cool.
So you can get all things like that as well. And again, what you tend to find then is that type of thing lasts longer, doesn't it? So again, you know the deposit life, as we all have. Use it and get rid of it, sort of.
It's interesting what you say about, obviously, you've moved things from one room in the house to another room in the house, and how you've changed them slightly and they look fine there now. And I've done that with things as well. And I think, God, a few years ago I would have thought that would have been ridiculous there. Yeah. But because the trends have changed and styles changed, it looks perfect there. And it's like, otherwise you would have flung it. You would have thrown it out. But now it's got a place somewhere else. It looks obviously on trend where it is.
Yeah. I must be really eco-friendly, because I'll keep everything till it falls off.
That's a whole different show, Tim.
It's like I'm no part with anything. It's like I've moved to LED bulbs, and that's me for the next 50 years. So I'll not be changing anything after that. But for me, it's like I just hear expense all the time.
Yeah.
But you could and all the rest of it, it's like, oh my God, that's a lot of money.
There's quite good deals on Etsy, but I think like the point we're trying to say is, obviously you could still get that on trend feel without having to go and purchase loads of more expensive things to get it.
Absolutely. and you don't have to purchase the whole thing again.
Yeah.
You could take a shade off and move that shade onto another lamp in another room and just buy
and give it a totally different feel.
So it can be monetary economical as well, Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jim's breaking out in a sweat at the thought of it.
But it must be, it's torture for me shopping. I don't know about anybody else out there, but it's literally torture for me. Every time Elaine says, "You better go shopping," no. Why not? You could just poke me in the eye with a sharp stick, and I'd probably be better off. That's who I think about shopping. Anyway, let's talk about next. Okay, let's better home workspaces. I mean, that was one of the things driving for next year as well.
Mm-hmm.
Working from home is different for everyone, but the one thing for sure is there's a move away from temporary makeshift solutions to give yourself a space. You're talking to three people here that have done it, eh?
I'm sitting in mine right now.
We're all sitting from home and we've got studios in our home now.
I'm sitting in mine right now. Yeah.
Proper television studios in your home, to televise everything and broadcast. Wow.
Yeah, I think things have changed, but I mean, again, it's another show in itself, but there's a mindset shift, isn't there? Not only as an employee, but also as employers. I think employers historically had, you've got to be sitting in the office and you've got to be at your desk and you've got to be there at 9 and you can't leave till 5 and your lunch breaks are this time and that time. And there was almost a feeling that if you weren't visible at your desk, you weren't working. And I think that it's not like that now, is it? Because everyone had no choice but to be working at home. And therefore, actually, what they've seen is people are more creative and more productive sometimes in that environment. And so a lot of companies have said, do you know what, actually, our business can sustain this, so let's do that. And then suddenly it's making people rethink their whole home. So it kind of brings it back into what we're talking about just now. So not only are they changing one room, but actually because they're there all of the time and they may only go to the office once a week or once a month, the whole home has to work much more for them because they're not out of it for 10 hours a day. They're in it all of the time and probably just leaving it on break time and at weekends or evenings, aren't they? So you have to make it work.
I have to have the blinds open so I can look out and see the sun. Because I'm literally glued to this desk all day.
I think if lockdown taught us anything, it is how, like you say, Perrie, obviously, how we could utilise our time and still work and be productive without actually physically being in an office. And I think there's so many businesses out there that have been in the same situation we were in through lockdown, and I was so surprised that when we got to the point where we were in the midst of lockdown, how busy we were and how I would continue. And I mean, I was like, I'm getting more done than what I do in the office. And I'm at home in my home office. It was crazy. It was weird. Lockdown was a really weird experience.
Because you're not getting the constant interruptions, and then also that you know what it's like. I mean, you just sort of eavesdrop on someone else's conversation and you gravitate towards them and go, "What was all that about?" It's like, and the next minute you're distracted. It's almost like when you go into social media. I don't know about you, but when you go into social media to do something, and then you're there for half an hour, and you come off and you think, "I never even done what I was going to do in the first place."
Yeah,
what's it all about?
Yeah.
It's like you just got completely distracted because you immediately saw a video with a cat and it was funny, and it just or a dog or something like that, and it's like, what happened there? It's like a whole half an hour of my life I'll never get back. Multifunctional spaces, when you think about it, are not the answer to everything, though. I mean, particularly when your work involves video calls, visits from clients, or deep concentration. If you do need an office at home, the most important thing to have is space that truly works for you. I mean, that's the key here. Consider these 5 elements. So the 5 elements, you want to talk about them. What's the 5 elements, Perrie?
I mean, certainly the location of wherever your workspace is going to be is really important. At the moment, for me, I'm frustrated because I'm sitting. So this is not working for me just now, although I'm doing the show because I've had some connectivity issues today. So my home office is actually upstairs and I've got my green screen and everything up there. But I've had to adapt that and sit in my dining area at the moment. So that's restricted the rest of my family. So I think if I'm doing that, there's hundreds of thousands of people probably out there who's doing the same thing, where they've not got a location in their home and they're having to make use of the space that they've got. And that can be really limiting for them and frustrating for the rest of the household as well. So, that's key to how it's going to work for yourself. And I will have my new office sorted for next weekend, hopefully.
I mean, it really is about being a bit, healthy and mindset and all the rest of it. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, isn't it?
It is about that, but it's been undisturbed as well. I mean, when we do these shows, we really like to commit everything to it when we're on there, aren't we? But you'll always see on the Saturday show, actually it's not happened today, but you'll normally see on the Saturday show that Billy has a little guest appearance coming and going. But but that's family life, and that's what the point I was kind of making earlier on about people working at home, and employers now are saying, well, actually that's real, that's just how it is. It's your family home, and life has to go on around you while you're doing this. But
I'm surprised he's not made a guest appearance now.
He's got all these tricks and treats with him now, so he'll be fine. We've got a little system worked out now. Right, Billy's sorted. Yeah, that's Billy. I don't know how the dog's getting on, but Billy's fine.
I was going to say.
So your locations thing, I think also your equipment, I mean, you have to be set up for it, don't you? You need to have, the desk space. You can't be just sitting there kind of balancing things on your lap and stuff like that. And there's not every employer can do ergonomic testing in people's houses and all this kind of stuff to make sure that your working desk is going to work for you. So there's a lot of responsibility, I think, on individual people now who are working at home to try and make that setup work for them as well. So the location equipment to the priorities, I would say. I mean, you've sometimes found that, Richard, when you've had to do it from home and for whatever's going on with Gab and your family life, you can't necessarily go and lock yourself away in one room, and you're having to kind of mix and match with how you can make the shows work for you, haven't you?
Yeah, it's the same. It's like you say, obviously, set up at the dining table, in the midst of everything, you've got the dog coming in, and obviously having to unplug the phone and turn off the doorbell, and loads of stuff. But I'm up here in the spare room, I've positioned the desk so I could look out the window. I've got the green screen behind me, so that's perfect.
I have to tell Elaine to I'm going to be broadcasting in a wee while, so did I put the Hoover on? And then the irony was the other day I had left the window open to give some fresh air in, and the guy was out in the garden with his blower going. I was like, oh great, eh? It's like I had to start again. I was pre-recording something to live stream, and it's like, and I was halfway through it, and I'd put so much effort into this, and the next minute I just said, and it's like, oh great, thanks for that, pal. It's like almost like I maybe need to have a light outside where
a red light when you're on the air.
Like you're developing your photographs red. That's
an idea. A wee light above the door. Like it just comes on, and that means I'm broadcasting. I might actually incorporate that. I never thought about that.
There you go. Yes, I think when
vintage. I might get one of these vintage ones. They just come on.
Who says
she didn't have style?
On air. I've got it sussed. I need an on-air light, so I can just flick the switch and it's on air. But I need a remote one. So one I can just get that on my phone, and I'll just switch on a wee light.
Hi, Jim, you'll get one on Etsy.
But no, like joking aside, I mean, I think that your equipment area is right, and having a good desk chair and things like that. Because if you are going to be sat at your desk, and I don't know, but you guys, and Jim, you touched on it a little bit there. When you're working from a home office, you tend to be sat at your desk more because you've not got those distractions from your colleagues and getting up to help somebody with this or getting up to see a client for this. You're fixed literally at that sitting position for some time. So you do need to be comfortable as well. So invest in a good chair. I've got one of those, and it does make a big difference. And then I think it's storage as well. You can't have everything everywhere. You've got to have some kind of organisation about it either as well, I think, because if you've not got shelving and structure to your working desk, if you were in the office, at home it's even harder, isn't it? Because you've got so many other distractions. And I'm not saying about what I witnessed tonight.
Storage.
I'm not even witnessing I'm not going to talk about what I witnessed tonight.
That's the final thing on the floor.
Elaine was like, now she's going to get to see your room.
Doesn't get into this room. Elaine doesn't get into this room. Because everything gets moved, and it's like, where is that gone? It's like I tidied it up. It's like, but I knew where it was. Yeah,
my OCD. I was just having to look in other directions. But no, it's important though, because I think if you're working in a cluttered environment as well, it's difficult to stay focused, isn't it? So I think for people working at home, when it's not been something that they've been used to, I mean, Jim, you've done that for many years, but others, this has been forced on them, hasn't it, recently? So it takes a little bit of adapting. So trying to make sure that works for you, a big thing as well. And it goes back to colour as well, making sure it's a nice room that you're in. You know, we talked about
Magnolia.
Your Magnolia room, Jim.
It's true though, isn't it, Perrie? It is Magnolia. Well, it's actually, no, I'll tell a lie. It's called wheatgrass. So
wheatgrass.
Elaine refused to get Magnolia. She says, there's no way I'm getting something with Magnolia written on it and wheatgrass. So it's a different shade of Magnolia.
It's
I'm
funny.
not allowed to say that. She's no watching, so that'll be fine.
My office obviously doubles up as spare room. But I've got, because you can't see it because I'm in front of the green screen, obviously, but I'm a studio. But
what type of colours do you go for then? For for your office space, is it the subtle blues, the greens?
Well, I've got forest shadows, and it's a green colour.
Ah, right, okay, yeah, okay. So you're going for that. That's very in vogue for 2022.
Yeah, I must admit I've gone white. I mean, my whole house when I moved in was dark grey every single wall. So I just suddenly wanted to make everything white and then adapt the white to different statement walls, as you've seen. The white works well for me, and then you can make that nice by kind of accessorizing it as well, because again, acoustically things have to work when you're doing these Zoom calls and video conferences, haven't you? And so scatter drugs and things like that, you can still make it really nice. It doesn't need to look like an office, to make it feel comfortable and somewhere you want to spend time in, and that works well. Because if you're going to be in there for 8 hours, it needs to work well. You can't feel like you're sitting in a shed.
Yeah, I mean, do you think the grey is going to fade out soon? Do you think that's? I mean, to me personally, I could never take to the grey because I always thought about Battleship Grey. When every time everybody said grey, I just thought Battleship Grey, and I thought, oh, geez, I can't. But now I understand why it's really nice and it works well with the greys that you use now. But it just put me off it for years with that sort of mentality, because Battleship Grey was an old thing. It does go back to the 70s, where people were doing their houses in that colour, and it was like, that's gross. But
I don't
now
think it will.
Really nice. But do you think that's fading out now? Do you think all these colours are? Because I get the impression with you guys, this is what's happening. We're coming into subtle blues. We're coming into greens and whites.
Not particularly, because my lounge and stairs are all still grey, but I have greens and golds and things. Do you know what I mean? Incorporated in that. So hopefully the greys didn't fall off trend because I've just decorated my office.
Gold is a very on-trend thing. Now, what I had done last year, I did a similar show to this a year ago, and we had talked about the trends for this year at Win in the Now. And the trend that we'd actually spotted was, the going back to the royal blue kitchens with the gold handles.
Yeah.
And it's like, now for you, Richard, you'll not remember that, but that's 1970s.
That's what I want to do my kitchen like. Yeah.
There you go. So it's coming in vogue. It's actually right.
It's definitely on trend.
And mine is kind of a very light. I would say it's more blue than grey. As well, and I quite like that. But I think it's not a complete replacement. I think it's an accessorizing with, as you said, Richard, adding the mustards and adding all those bright colours into it to make it feel and look different, but without dramatically changing everything.
Yeah. So you talked about, Perrie, I think you'd mentioned about things about cosy rugs and acoustics and stuff like that. So the styling as well is important.
Yeah, I think style is definitely important, just for your comfort level and obviously for your sounds. I was in a room the other day doing a show, and it wasn't great because the acoustics, you can hear it kind of tinny when I was trying to speak. But I think it's important to do that, and also pictures as well, because I've gone quite white with a lot of my walls, I'm using really coloured statement pictures, and actually not going necessarily out and buying them. We were up in Killen and took fantastic photos out on one of the piers, and Billy's standing with a dog and I'm right at the very front, and I took this photo, and it was a panoramic photo, and it's just amazing, and it's got all that country outdoor colour feel to it, and the water and the blues and everything. And people that we met there who we became friends with, her husband was a printer and he transferred it onto canvas, and I've got it now getting framed, and I'm going to put that on the wall, so you're going to have all this outdoor indoor feel with those colours. Just with that picture, and it'll just bring that whole wall to life without feeling that I have to paint everything a different colour.
Yeah. Is there anything else we should consider then for 2022 for, with no cupboard? What about things like, what's going to happen with the gardens? Do you think anything's going to change in a garden? Do you think that's going to change at all? Gardens or outside spaces, or are we just going to keep things as they are? Is this trend of building when you think about it, home office out in the garden?
Yeah.
For people that don't have it, the home office out in the garden and the bar area seems to be still quite popular. A lot of people did that in lockdown, and will that continue to happen?
I did consider the outdoor office in the garden, but like this time of year, it's not going to be any good unless you really insulate it and have heating and things in there. And maybe down south, I think they've got a bit better because maybe they've got a bit warmer climate for more of the year. But definitely the outside bars. And I think what I noticed in people's gardens, and I've done it myself, is segregating into different sections, and obviously like the summer house at the bottom, and then you've got your patio at the top, and then somewhere in the middle you've got another seating area and things. So because you're utilising your outside space a lot more because you're at home a lot more. Yeah. Especially through the summer months and everything, I've seen that happen quite a lot.
Do you think more and more people will continue to stay at home and entertain at home?
Yes, absolutely.
So, yeah.
And I don't know if you're finding this, Richard, but certainly quite a few of my friends are now saying, actually, I'm not fussed for doing that. I would rather just
come to yours or come to us.
Yeah, I'd rather have a few people around, and we'll do steak on a slate or chicken or whatever we're doing, and then just entertain in homes. And again, going back to what you said, Richard, I think the whole garden living space is a big thing now as well, where people are actually creating individual little rooms without walls, obviously, in the garden, and then having perhaps those big internal rooms at the bottom of the garden when the weather's not so great, but you don't want to be in the house and you want to feel like you've gone out. So you're kind of enjoying those outdoor spaces. And for me, having recently moved, that's one of the things that Billy and I are talking about is, right, in the spring, the garden's going to be the project, and what do we do with it? How do we create that into a space that is an extension of the house, really? That's kind of the next route that we're taking. Yeah. And neighbours have just had loads of stuff delivered in their building. So I think that this is going to just continue on, because I think people are feeling a little bit more comfortable maybe being at home, and the world and the freedom that we have is still at the moment quite unpredictable. We're not even into flu season or anything like that, so we don't know how it's really going to affect people, do we?
Yeah, there's still a nervousness, isn't there?
There is absolutely a nervousness about it. And no matter, even I think whatever decisions are taken to help us stay safe, I think that we will all still have our own little insecurities about where we want to be in crowds, and my days of nightclubbing are gone anyway, so I'm okay with that. But
right, I still know. I mean, I would love to go to Truth, but I just think I would be completely out of place.
Jim, I would be out of place in Truth nowadays. So don't worry.
I know, because just to step in the door and see it, because I've never actually physically been inside the place. But I just feel I'm now out of character. It's like Mark Wilkinson the other day said to me when he got his hit with Satellite, and it was Lou Reed's remix. So he remixed Lou Reed's song, and then he said to him, you want to come on Top the Pops and we'll do it. And Lou Reed went, no. Jumping about and prancing about, my days are gone, pal. It just wouldn't seem right being on Top of the Pops with a upbeat tempo version of my song. So, and it's I know how he feels now. I'm old officially.
But there's plenty of new tricks there yet, I'm sure, Jim.
We need to get back to opening a discotheque.
Oh, God.
A discotheque for the over 60s.
I do think, though, people's homes has always been their safe space, but even more so because of what's obviously happened over the last year or two, and then obviously the uncertainty of what's coming. Your home continues to be more of a safe space, and you've spent all this time making it that kind of. Then people are going to spend more time in it.
And it does come back to the fact that I always keep saying it. My dad used to say it. My dad says it to me as well. You're a long time deed. You can't take it with you. You may as well enjoy it while it's here, because you're not taking it with you. And that's fine, Dad. Just lend me the money, and I'll put a check in your when you go to pay you back.
It's true, then. I think living in Fife, we're very fortunate. We've got such beauty around us anyway, so we do kind of get all of our inspiration for our living spaces from what we have around us on the outside as well, don't we, in regards to how we live and our colours and our softness and what we can bring into our garden and into our homes. So we're blessed in lots of other ways as well, which I think is positive.
Yeah. So, and that's why we probably see the resurgence of a lot of people from cities actually wanting to move out into Fife.
Yeah. And I think as well, we've got such an array of different foods and things available to come right to the door. We don't need to go and sit in a restaurant.
And that's another design trend as well, isn't it? It's like you see the on stream, the oven stream, the pizza places, the grind.
That's just across the road for me. Yeah.
They're all popping up now. All these bistros and small businesses just in their own, these the Airstream vans.
Just pop up places.
The pop-ups. And so it actually it's easy to eat out because you're just going out and getting it and bringing it and you eat out with your friends. You're not needing to do anything yourself. It's on your doorstep. So that's another trend for 2022, which I think will continue.
And local restaurants are delivering to your door as well. You get steak delivered to your door. Do you know what I mean? Steak, seafood.
You'll never go out the door.
Yeah.
No, we still like
to
enjoy
walking the dog, so that's
fine. You'll never go out your garden. Amazon will deliver everything on a the like drone. Just drop it into your garden. There you go, pal. All right, thanks, pal. And then everybody will communicate like this. We'll all talk like this, and we'll never go out the door ever again.
No, we don't want that to happen. I mean, we do have some great restaurants.
We do definitely need human contact. That's the one
Absolutely.
thing. We always need human contact. We are built like that. That is the way our psyche works. To be on our own is not the right thing to do. We are like that in our inherent nature. Anyway, that's us, guys. We thought this wasn't going to last, but I tell you what, we could have talked about this for another hour. But we're not going to. That's a roundup now. Richard, final thoughts on this?
I think to stay on topic and obviously about the trends for the coming year, not everybody has that knack for being on trend and maybe having that knowledge of colour schemes and things, but it's so easy to pick it up and it isn't hard. And going by the conversation, pick up the phone and ask them. We would advise you, I suppose, if you're wanting to obviously put your property in a better light for advertising, for sale or for let, by having it dressed or in a good colour scheme.
Perrie?
Yeah, I mean, we're fortunate, aren't we? Because we are in and out of property all the time. So we have the heads up as well on trends and what we see and what works and what might not work for us. So we absolutely have tips that we can share with everyone. But I think it's just be brave and be bold in all the decisions that you make, and just reach out in the right areas to do that. And just keep in touch with your sensories and what feels good for you. And whilst trends are great, at the end of the day, it's your living space and it has to work for you as a person and as a family. So it's about just creating a living space that you're comfortable being in.
Yeah, I mean, there you have it. Roundup for 2022. Key design trends for a striking start to the new year at your home. Are you feeling inspired in the process? If you like more advice and the best ways to style and decorate your home to get ready for the sale, why not get in touch with Perrie or Richard? Don't speak to them. Because it's clearly
we know that exactly, Magnolia is the only answer, so there'll be no inspiration there, so avoid that.
And on that note, guys, thanks very much for coming on the show, and we'll see you all next week for the Fife Property Show. Bye bye for now.
Brilliant.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Have a good one.